Guys, I want to take a moment to talk about one of our favorite partners, SteelSeries. Over the years, I've tried out plenty of different gaming equipment from various companies, but SteelSeries is by far the best. Their gaming peripherals are second to none. And it's not just us. Plenty of our editors also use SteelSeries gear as well. Their Apex Pro keyboard lineup is fully customizable with the fastest speeds with their OmniPoint 2.0 adjustable hypermagnetic switches. This allows you to have ultimate control with 40 levels of per key actuation from 0.1 millimeters to 4 millimeters. Looking to set up your keys for light, ultra fast movements? Easy. Want to set your ability keys for deep presses to avoid accidentally using an ability? Or like us, fat fingering our super? It happens. But with the right keyboard, you can mitigate that issue. You can even program 2 different actions to the same key, such as walking with light touch, but then you can sprint with a deep press. These are the world's fastest keyboards and trusted by the top esports players in the world, as well as yours truly. No lie, SteelSeries keyboards literally hold the world record for speed typing, which was just recently set with the SteelSeries Apex Pro keyboard. Now, if you're interested in picking up one of these SteelSeries keyboards or any of their other products, using code Aztecross on their website with the link down below will get you 12% off on all SteelSeries products. When Bungie detailed the seasonal artifact perks for Season the Witch, everyone was pretty much underwhelmed. However, since getting our hands on the Acolyte staff, I need to set the record straight. One of the last perks on the artifact that has been misbehaving lately, which I have to assume is unintentional. Whatever the case, we need to talk about Monochromatic Maestro, because it is single-handedly taking what I believe to be a very meh set of perks to meta set of perks. Now, on paper, Monochromatic Maestro is very similar to its debut as an artifact mod last year, dealing elemental weapon damage buffs ability damage off that same element by 10% for 5 seconds, and vice versa. For builds that rely on single element synergies, this is a very good way to passively boost your damage simply through regular play. That perk disappeared with Lightfall though, but now it's back. So what's different? First, Buildcrafting saw a big update with the updated armor mods that launched in Lightfall, particularly the consolidation of damage mods into weapon surges, which increases weapon damage while you have an armor charge. Now, one mod grants a 10% buff, 2 mods grant 17%, and 3 grant 22%. Now, this displays in your buff and debuff feed as an elemental weapon boost, times however many surges you have. Long story short, Monochromatic has returned in a sandbox with a greater emphasis on this build style than during its debut, making its benefits more likely to be useful. Secondly, alongside the major mod updates, Bungie sought to unify and streamline exotic armor performance, particularly around damage boosts. Exotic armor used to have all sorts of unique damage buffs, but these were also consolidated into a new universal buff that Bungie calls, quote, Tier 4 non-stacking damage buff. Oh, believe me, I have a lot to say about Tier 4, but that's for another video. For now, though, this is the same buff applied by Surge mods, except that instead of being limited to 3 stacks, some armor can apply 4 stacks of that elemental damage boost buff, granting a 25% increase in weapon damage, matching the element in question. Sure, this approach may have flattened Buildcrafting quite a bit, but that's where we are. And part of why Monochromatic Maestro is so exciting. Maestro now ties into that same non-stacking damage buff system. If you box someone with a throwing hammer, you'll see a single stack of solo weapon boosts on the left, and then get a 10% boost as promised. If you already have 3 stacks from solo weapon surge mods, Maestro will bump that to 4. If you have 4 from an exotic, it'll bump it up to 5. 4 stacks should give a 25% boost, so 5 stacks should be somewhere around 27%, right? Well, that's not what's happening. When Monochromatic Maestro is active, 4 stacks are granting a 34% weapon damage boost, while 5 stacks are granting 37.5%. That's right, folks. It's stacking. Now, if you want to take this up an extra notch, pair this with a solar subclass, and Radiant is also going to stack, which altogether gives you a 71% weapon damage boost. Furthermore, you can also use weapon damage perks on this as well. For example, we tested this on a solar subclass with Monochromatic Maestro, Foe Tracer, Radiant, and Bait and Switch on an Apex Predator, and this was giving us a 132% increase in damage. Now, granted, this isn't something you're going to be able to proc rock all the time, but it's there, and it's possible under the right conditions. After 6 months of stockless, flattened build crafting, we can finally crank up our weapon damage like the good old days. Now, I'm actually surprised this has not been dealt with, but considering all the bugs Bungie's been dealing with, I can understand why this is not exactly at the top of the to-do list, but I can see this being fixed. After all, the system Monochromatic is using is called non-stacking, leading us to believe that this is very much not what the devs intended. The news of this bug started to bubble up because it was stacking with Foe Tracer, which just received a rework to harness that buff. Foe Tracer was actually disabled for contest mode Crota, but it's starting to seem like Maestro was the real culprit here. I mentioned this to emphasize the fact that the buff is probably going away soon. Bungie may decide to patch it out, or they'll just let it expire at the end of the season, leaving it to be fixed the next time it rolls around. Either way, you're going to need some builds that take advantage of this beautiful synergy, and we've got a few for you. The great thing about this mod is that it can be used with pretty much every single subclass, giving you lots of flexibility. Now, for some reason though, it doesn't work with Strand. Monochromatic Maestro is not working at all with Strand. And we're not sure why, and hopefully that will be fixed soon, but at the same time, I don't want Monochromatic Maestro's current benefits to be eradicated just yet. Now for our builds. Hunters, Foe Tracer is what originally unearthed this beautiful exploit, synergy, whatever you want to call it. So that's where we're going to start. Leading up to Season of the Witch, we threw together a build called the Ice Tracer. We predicted that Foe Tracer and Weapon Surge mods would stack, which turned out to not be the case. But Monochromatic Maestro can step in to fill that gap. For those that missed it though, Foe Tracer now grants a 25% damage boost to weapons, matching your subclass, after damaging a powerful enemy with an ability. Now, powerful means anything with an orange bar or tougher. For your mods, since we're not building around weapon surges, you can slot anything you like to keep you alive and your abilities charged. Siphon mods, heavy-handed, emergency reinforcement, innervation, reaper are all good starting points. Now, despite things not shaking out exactly as we thought, this build still holds together. Revenant with Gambler's Dodge, Dustfield Grenades, Touch of Winter to enhance that grenade, either Grim Harvest to increase stasis shard drops, or Winter Shroud to slow nearby enemies. Weapons like Eyes Luna with Headstone feels really good after the PvE hand cannon buff, or you can just slot on things like Agar Scepter if you're looking to just melt everything. Now, if you pre-order Final Shape, Tessellation inherits your subclass elements, allowing you to run stasis in your energy slots. Otherwise, this slot can really just be whatever you want. For your heavy, you can go at Reed's Regrets for some truly staggering precision damage, or even Salvation's Grip, which we did a deep dive on after its rework, and it's surprisingly good at crowd control. Now, the loop is simple. Throw your Withering Blade into a crowd of enemies. If you hit a powerful enemy, you're already at stasis weapon boost times 5, granting you that 37.5% damage buff. You do not need to keep an eye on your timer, since Foe Tracer lasts 10 seconds, while Maestro only lasts 5, but Gambler's Dodge lets you refresh your melee charges quickly, and Dustfield Grenades continuously keep applying slow, therefore keeping Maestro procced. It's a beautiful thing happening here, guys. No lie, I envy my hunters. Now for Titans. While we don't have exotics with that same ease of use as Foe Tracer, we still have some solid options. Icefall Mantle works for behemoths out there, but I want us to move over to Path of Burning Steps. Now, we've gone on the record stating that the nerf to this exotic and its stacking capabilities was a tragedy, but Maestro is giving it back to us just a little bit. Getting solo kills from any source grants a chance to add 1 stack to weapon boosts, all the way up to times 4. Really, enemy dense encounters make this a breeze. Now, similar to Hunters, without weapon surges anchoring this build, focus on mods that improve your ability regeneration. Throw on your Sunbreaker and Throwing Hammer, Super and Grenades are pretty much up to you, and unsurprisingly, we rocked Soul Invictus, and more importantly, Roaring Flames. Kinetic weapons can't hook into Solar, but there's no shortage of energy and heavy options that can. Skyburner's rework pairs great with Path, as well as our old favorite Polaris Lance, and DPS kings like Apex Predator, Sleeper Simulant, Cataclysmic, which have great damage perks, whether that's Bait and Switch or Explosive Light. You can combine this with the likes of Radiant, buffing our damage even more. Now keep in mind, Path of Burning Steps now grants that tier 4 solar weapon damage bonus on any solar grenade kills. This was a change Bungie made going into this season, which adds more ease of use here. So as far as our gameplay loop, start by getting your solar weapon boost with Path, whether that's through weapon kills or just landing a grenade kill. Essentially do this and then tack on Maestro. Now, we may have forgotten to mention, but the damage stacking bug works both ways, because Maestro also stacks with Roaring Flames. So while you're getting your kills and building weapon stacks, you can build Roaring Flames up to ×3, granting over 70% extra damage to your hammer, as well as your grenades and your super. This loop now becomes shoot enemies, buff your abilities, throw your hammer, buff your abilities and weapons, rinse and repeat. Now, while weapons can reach 37.5%, which is still good, your solar abilities though, with Roaring Flames ×3 and Monochromatic Maestro, can reach a whopping 90% damage buff. That throwing hammer is going to put in some serious damage. Now, Warlocks, even though you have fewer exotic armors in this department, you have another synergy to use, Empowering Rifts. While this is a different kind of buff than surges and exotics, that 20% damage buff from your class ability does stack with that 10% buff from Maestro, putting up a 32% weapon damage buff. Now, this is clearly subclass neutral, allowing you to harness the synergy on any build you want. But if you're looking to maximize the effect, your best exotic option is Mantle Battle Harmony, creating faster super recharge and that tier 4 damage boost once it's up. Now, while this combo works great on any element, it feels amazing on Arc. Now, before you ask, no, Maestro doesn't interact with Arc Soul, so keep that in mind. The benefit of Arc is that thanks to Electrostatic Mine aspect, you're going to be generating tons of Ionic Traces to recharge your abilities. Other exotics like Fallen Sunstar lean into high ability regeneration, while the recently updated Geomax stabilizers buff your super output. And we've been using Geomax constantly during Arc Surge environments. Now, Battle Harmony and Maestro will land you somewhere in between those two, since you'll be chewing through enemies faster thanks to the extra damage, but it doesn't min-max the same way. That said though, you could still just run Sunstar or Geomax, since you always have Empowering Rifts constantly available and Maestro buffs your Chaos Reach damage. Yes, you heard that right, guys. Maestro buffs your Chaos Reach damage. Granted, it's not stacking above the intended 10%, but it's still extra damage either way. And with Maestro, you're able to harness both the ability to clear out ads and still have a very hard-hitting super. This is not a game-breaking bug, and I know, presenting this information now, you're like, Cross, we literally had a shotgun last week, which would instantly shred Crota. We had auto rifles, which would one-tap anyone in Crucible. We've experienced damage like never before, but that has been fixed. So even though Monochromatic Maestro and this damage may not seem super impressive in in-game content, you're definitely going to appreciate the damage buff that it has to offer and the stacking capabilities that it brings to the table. Well, fellas, I hope you enjoyed this video. Something we're going to start doing is featuring a build from you guys. Every now and then, we will actually pick a build from the comment section and roll with it. I will literally take it into GMs, master raids, and solo dungeons, and we'll see if it has the potential to be as deadly as some of you say. So if you got some icky you want to share with us, feel free to drop it down below. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.